Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cullen on Film. New episode. We're finally back, but we're back in at our homes again. Sometimes we're in the studio. Today we're on location, I guess you could say, right? You're here with Jim Ford. How you doing, Jim?
Hey, how are you, Chris? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we got to talk for right before the festival there for a little bit and talk about your films and everything, and then we got to talking about your book and your stunt stuff. So why don't we start out? Like, how did you get into doing stunts?
Yeah, so it was pretty interesting, because growing up, I had an athletic background, and I did some skateboarding and I did some extreme sports, but I never thought it would lead to anything. Yeah. I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball player, and probably somewhere around high school, I realized that wasn't going to happen, and I was like, just very committed to doing what I loved. A lot of people were talking about money and business school. And, I took some theater classes and I decided I was going to pursue acting. And so I went, I got into a conservatory at the Hart School in Connecticut. And I'm really just into theater. I'm doing Shakespeare. I'm doing all this stuff. And one of the teachers actually told me about this stunt school in Seattle, Washington. And it sounds crazy. Stunt school. Like, who's ever heard of this? And I thought it was a joke. They had like little flyers and stuff. I thought it was like a clown college. And so I literally went to this stunt school just so I didn't have to lifeguard that summer.
Oh, wow.
Because my parents are like, oh, you got to work. You're going to stay here. It's not a flop house. You got to go to, you got to landscape or life. Because I went there not thinking anything other than I'm just going to have a ton of fun. And then maybe I'll put that on my resume and I'll be like a Tom Cruise. I'll be acting when I get out of school. I'll do all my own stunts. That's what I thought. So anyways, I go to this stunt school, and there's a million stories about stunt school and what we did and all that. But basically it was, you learn driving, you learn the fights and get lit on fire and how to, jump off of buildings and all this stuff. It was really, I always remember pulling up. They picked me up from the airport and they bring me to the hotel. And I always remember this. There were just kids climbing the hotel. Some people were already on the roof. There were kids doing backflips, and the instructor comes out and he's like, all right, guys, don't get hurt before the first day. Here's your packets. See you tomorrow. Just like he's seen it. Nothing out of the ordinary. So everything goes good there. I go back to school. I still got 2 years of studying. So I come back from it. I'm still studying. I study Shakespeare in England. Full-time actor. I moved to New York. I get an agent, I start working, and I wasn't pursuing stunts. I didn't know how to pursue stunts. If someone, I thought there were probably only 2 or 3 stuntmen in the world, like, oh, it's a James Bond movie, and, that guy's a stuntman, but I didn't think there was stunt coordinators and stunt teams. I didn't know anything. So I'm acting, and thankfully I'm doing good. And so, yeah, I just had this stunt school on my resume, and, some casting directors occasionally would bring it up and they're like, what the heck is this? And I say, hey, I went to this thing in Seattle, and they're like, are you serious? Like, you've been lit on fire? And I said, yeah. And it helped a little bit. Like, I would get some physical roles if there was an acting role and I had to do a fight. Yeah. Like it sort of helped, but I like becoming a stuntman was so far away. And then literally, someone had suggested, cause I was still very young at the time and I looked, even younger. So, the casting directors, they kept bringing it up. And then eventually someone was like, hey, there's this stunt coordinator we know. His name's Pete Bucozzi. And, he's sometimes looking for young looks on his file. Why don't you send him, your picture? And I was sending headshots and resumes to everyone, just trying to get acting stuff. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what sending a picture to a stunt coordinator would do. Is he going to cast me? I wrote a letter like, I know how to skateboard or something, like I went to the stunt school, and I didn't hear from him. And I was, so busy taking anything I could get, running around like a pinball. About 3-4 months later, I get a voicemail from this guy, Pete. And he said, hey, I'm working on a big movie with Ed Norton. Do this movie. And he says, we're having trouble finding a double for Ed Norton. And I thought it's a joke. I thought maybe my buddies were, pranking me or something, like, I need a stunt double for this guy. But, we stayed in touch, and it was still like a month or so later, he had me come down to set, and I met Edward and I met his team, the director and everything. And, I was very tall and skinny. A lot of stunt guys are huge. They're just big. They look like MMA fighters. And so I was a great match, but I had no credits. And so there was kind of like, oh, he seems like a good guy. You know, he said he wrestled in school, he played sports, but let's see what happens. And they gave me some choreography and put me through the stuff. And, you know, I did a good job. And so they took a big risk doing it, but it ended up working out really well. You know, it was this huge, I mean, it was kind of one of those moments where like the week before I was in a Filipino family's house that I found on Craigslist, eating like ramen noodle, paying like $300 a month in rent. And then now I'm on this like $50 million studio thing. And my first day is just wrestling Colin Farrell and fighting and getting thrown over tables and just getting, you know, the crap kicked out of me and having fun. And I always say one interesting thing was I kind of thought that was going to be it, you know, because I'm doing commercials, I'm getting acting parts, and I was like, wow, this was incredible. You know, at some point I'm thinking someone's going to say, all right, you almost fooled us, kid, but no, you could, you know, I ended up, you know, doing a good job. And I guess because I had a younger look, that's kind of was tricky to find, because, you know, the older guys you can trust. And I think with the younger guys, it's more like they're always going to tell you, oh, I'm fearless, I'll do whatever. And those are the guys that kind of get hurt, or those are the yahoos you don't really trust. Yeah. So word kind of got out that there was a young kid and with no credits, and he, you know, he had a big job and he did a good job. And so after that, I was getting frat guy roles, you know, Sopranos, and I was kind of getting flown all over the place, doing soap operas and just, you know, doubling a lot of guys. And, you know, it's not always stunt doubling, you know, that's probably, I'd say, a third of it. You know, other times, you know, sometimes you might play a cop and he has a couple of lines, and rather than getting a stunt double in there, you know, you say the lines and then you get shot through the glass or fall off the building. So I kind of parlayed it with that, and it just kept going. And, you know, I think the last big thing I worked on was probably 15 years ago. And then recently, you know, I was on The Irishman, and I got, you know, that was my first SAG award nomination for doing some stunts. Yeah.
They finally got that going with the stunt. Was it this year, the first year, or did it do it last year?
No, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
it was really.
I knew they were talking about it. I didn't know if it went
first
through.
Up, they announced it, but that was kind of interesting when they got that.
So you got that, and then what you said, and then you got nominated for The Irishman, and so you had a big break in between.
Well, no, it's actually was like that was the most recent. It was probably, you know, I've been working steady for about 15 years doing it.
Oh, doing that, yeah.
Doing that, and it was from from that first job, Pride and Glory. Just randomly, you know, someone sent my picture of that, did the Ed Norton job, and I think it was because I was young at the time. There was kind of a demand for younger looks, and stuff was really busy at the time, but it was busy. And I kind of write about this a little bit in the book too, was that it wasn't just New York or LA. There was, you know, One Tree Hill was a big show on the CW down in Wilmington, North Carolina. There was more movies a month in Louisiana than there was in Hollywood at the time. Yeah, there was a ton. So I was always down in Louisiana. They'd fly me down there, you know, Ohio, New Mexico. And it was like, you know, succulent. It was just one continuous thing. I just kept working. And I still did acting too, and it was just really busy. But and so since then I've been very fortunate. I've worked on some big action movies and just had a lot of fun. Yeah.
And I mean, you've been in a lot of short films too, and in the festival route, we've seen you in a lot of shorts as well.
Yep.
So you do behind this, you do the stunting, and you do a lot of the acting as well. And obviously you're writing.
Right. Yeah. But bunch of writing. Now, speaking of shorts, I don't know. I think a couple years ago you accepted one of our shorts called Test Drive. Did you ever see that? Do you remember that film? I can't remember if it was yours or it was it was either Brightside or Grove Film Festival.
I think so.
That was that was kind of an interesting way to sort of culminate, because I've been making short films since I was a little kid, and being on these big, you know, I mean, I've worked on some like Kevin Bacon or Tom Cruise movies, you know, these $100 million action movies. I'm meeting like these. Yeah. What were we saying? So with Test Drive was one of those, a big culmination of everything, because I had been fortunate to meet some of these guys on these monster sets that had a lot more credits and experience and exciting things than me. And I would kind of show him my short films and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes invite him to a film festival. And, I met this guy, John Mason. He's a big stunt driver, very experienced. He's doubled Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was part of this traveling, driving stunt show. And he's crashed and flipped a car, I think, like over 2,000 times.
Wow.
And he's still walking. And yeah, it's unbelievable. And so with Test Drive, the pitch was, I've been making short films. I love them. I love going to film festivals. Is there anything you would do where I don't have to pay you $1 million? Is there any skill you would lend or something, a dream you've wanted to do, so I could kind of put you in one of my shorts? And he was very receptive to the idea. And he didn't even think about it. He goes, yes. He goes, there's something I've always wanted to do, and the studios won't let me do it. He goes, I want to do a car crash without an edit. And I want to go over and over, and I want to get out of the car. And so he didn't really have any ideas of what the scenario. He was like, maybe I could show up to a bar, I'll crash the car and be like, hey guys, I'm here, and you just hand me a Heineken. And I was like, yeah, I might be tough to find a launch ramp in an area that you could skid up to the bar or a location. But I said, we'll certainly keep that idea open. And I talked to a bunch of guys. One of my buddies, Rob Lathan, he's kind of written some stuff with some SNL guys. And I was like, man, you got anything? And we actually wrote 2 or 3 different versions just based on what location we could get. So we had a driving school skit, if we could find a parking lot. And then we had this idea for a field. And believe it or not, I mean, we're all amped up to do it. It took almost 6 months to get permission to find a place that would let us, because sometimes what would happen is we filmed it in central Massachusetts, where my hometown is, because usually stuff goes a little further there.
Yeah.
And I was talking to people, and some people had big backyards, and some people, their uncles had like a restaurant, and they had a thing. And every time it would get close, and we'd set it up, and we'd get the car, and people's availability is a huge thing, because we're really not paying many people, or if we are, it's very little. Yeah. And then someone would talk to their aunt or their sister and go, what if? And we even had insurance, but we didn't have like Ben Affleck insurance. We had okay, this stuff. And people would say, we're really sorry, but we just feel like the liability. And I go, the guy's done it 2,000 times. But yet they kept canceling. And then finally, I had a buddy from high school. I mean, we put ads online. We hired location scouts. We talked to everyone and anyone. And finally, I had a guy from high school. He's like, hey, I know this girl, this lady. She's a farmer. She's bored, and she's pretty cool. I told her about it. She wants a bottle of Malibu. I was like, she doesn't want to see any insurance. She doesn't want any money. She's like, she wants you to come because she's got all this land. I think she inherited like 90, maybe 100 acres of land. And so that was once we found that, then we just went and got another car, and we towed it in because it didn't have plates. It didn't have anything. It was like a salvage title. And we towed the car in. We just had to make sure it got up to 40 miles an hour. And it's actually kind of incredible what happened. He comes up, and it's called Test Drive. And so he's just test driving a car. He's just supposed to be shocking the salesman. And what ends up happening is he hits the ramp. It starts with the salesman's like, checking his watches, and the car comes barreling around the corner. And it really does. It goes end over end. And his one rule, he goes, no edit. He goes, I don't want you cutting. I don't want you putting, 5 cameras, like Fast and the Furious, because then people will think it's fake.
Yeah.
He goes, the beauty of what I'm doing is I'm not going to have the same type of harnesses. I'm not going to have the roll cages. I'm doing this without that, which is very dangerous. But because he did it without the roll cages and without all the stuff, he was able to just end over end over end. The car lands, it comes back on the wheels. He pops out and he gets right out of the car.
Oh my God.
So it's like, but the craziest thing, if you watch this, because it's online now, it's on Vimeo, YouTube, it's on my website.
Yeah, where can we show you? Can see it on your website? Yeah, well, I did see it. I did see it at the bright side. I did.
Yeah. So if you watch, it's only like, it's less than 3 minutes. Jimford.com, it'll be on that. But if you Google, I think Test Drive short film, it'll come up. The craziest thing is on the day, everyone's very excited. We had medics. We had a huge crew. a lot of people were like, I just come to watch it. Like, is he really going to do this? Like, I'll come, I'll bring my wife, you know. People were making cider. People were, oh yeah, it was like
I love watching stunts. I love that stuff. It's a lot of fun on the big set. So that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so everyone came down. And so what ended up happening was, you know, he came there and we're like, you tell us where to put the camera. You tell us what you need. And he had this great guy, the head of New England Stunts and Safety. He came down too, and he built the ramp. It's a special ramp that kind of launches him. And he walked, I'll never forget it. He walked about 20 paces, maybe 25. And he goes, you put the camera here. He goes, and I'm gonna land the car right there. I go, you're gonna go 35 miles an hour. You're gonna flip the car 2 times, and the car's gonna land there. And you've never driven this maker model before. He goes, yeah, I mean about. And I'm not kidding you. When you watch it, he end over end, and the car lands right in front of the camera, like he hit a mark. You know, like an actor, they put the X and tell you, hey, you know, say your line here, hit your mark. He hit his mark like 30 feet at launch. And he got out of the car and delivered the line. So it was really, really cool. And that's kind of how we marketed it with the long take, and it did well. It got into even, I think, one Academy qualifying festival.
Oh yeah.
I think the Cleveland one. That was a long-standing one. People were just like, wow, he believes it's never been done before. We're trying to find it. You know, he says the car's never gone end over end without an edit and the driver getting over. So I think we made history.
Maybe, because I never heard of it.
Right. Yeah. I think we made history.
So I remember seeing that. It was a while ago now, but I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes by quick.
When I saw that, because I didn't expect it at all. You know?
Right. Some people think it's fake. Some people are like, no, what did they superimpose that? And that's why we're like, no, he gets out. I mean, we couldn't have. Yeah. There's no green screen, no nothing. Yeah.
No, I've been on big sets too, every so often, just as an extra, like you said, like a cop or something like that. And I love the big days on the big sets where they bring in all the fun stuff, all the stunts.
Oh yeah, all the big stuff and the fires and the explosions, and we've been a part of that. And one nice one, if you're ever watching it, there's a couple big action movies, but I don't know if you ever saw Night and Day.
I never saw that one, actually, with the Tom Cruise one. And
yeah, it's really kind of a fun popcorn movie, but there's some huge sequences in it. And I was pretty low on the totem pole, but because this was maybe 8 or 9 years ago, but I got in and was part of, because I've done some stunt driving, and some of it was, the main guys are they're in the hot spots, flipping the cars, and I'd be driving away from it or next to it, or, and that, but I mean, they're launching the cars and they're exploding them and ratcheting them. But one of the cool scenes, and I think I have a picture of it on my website. It's definitely on my IMDb page, is, so Tom Cruise he jumps off like this motorcycle and he lands on the roof of this SUV. And at this point, I'm one of the villains. And this guy, I think it's Nash Edgerton, he's a big short filmmaker, but he's also a really good stunt guy. He's driving the car. And we're going through the Ted Williams Tunnel, which they had just, it was like the hugest construction project under the sun, the Big Dig. And they finally finished it in Boston, and now this Tom Cruise movie comes in and they shut it down. And so for 3 weeks, if you watch the sequence in Night and Day, you can't miss it because it's when they go through the tunnel. 3 weeks it took to film this, and they shut it down. Boston, connecting the city of Boston to Logan Airport, they shut it down. And they flew in some of the best stunt drivers in the world to drive at us. And so we had to go oncoming traffic. So we're avoiding near misses. And Tom Cruise is literally on the roof of a car. And so I could tell you the stunts that he definitely did. And that was one of them. I mean, he was picked to the roof of the car. So if anything did ever happen, I mean, he would get wrecked. Yeah. But he wouldn't he wouldn't fall all the way to the ground. But I mean, still, we were probably going 45 miles an hour. Oh. And the oncoming cars were going 15 miles an hour. So, I mean, if someone went left when they should have went the other way, that would have been bad. And he did it. He did a lot of takes on that.
It's crazy how many stunts he does in his movies. It's crazy at his age now too.
Right. And it's weird because that is the big question. Like, does he do all his own stunts? Does he do it? And it's like, technically I saw him do everything. I mean, he has a stunt double, and, he's not doing 20 takes. He's not doing it. We did the same thing for 3 weeks. He has a guy to get the wide shots and the coverage, but literally every stunt I saw him do it at least once. And some of them he was jumping from car to car. And, like I said, there was a wire. So if something happened, he's not going to bounce off the street. But I mean, you're going to get, banged up. I mean, this is not something you're going to want to do. And
he got hurt really bad in the Mission Impossible with his leg.
Yeah. Going into it. I mean, those guys, and some of those riggers though, man, they are the top of the line guys, and they had us harnessed in. So when you see it, I'm actually hanging out the window and I'm shooting at him and he's shooting back. And so we got a nice still of us having a shootout. And then eventually our car flips over and we get able to shoot it and he escapes. But that was kind of one of those like awesome, just action sequences to be in. We filmed it for 3 weeks straight. And that was my office for 3 weeks was the Ted Williams tunnel, just to go in. I couldn't believe it. And, he was a nice guy. I mean, he had a lot of energy, and I think he did a lot of stuff. The producers were like, "Oh man, do you have to get back on the motorcycle?" But it was neat to see it in action. Big film like that. Yeah.
Have you been, well, obviously, were you doing big films or a lot of stunts up to when this all happened in like March? Were you? Yeah.
So everything was it was really busy. We were doing, I was down, what was it? There's a Dawn of the Dead remake down in Virginia.
Oh.
I was down that, or a spin-off TV series. So it was down that. There's a Chris Evans TV show called something Defending Jacob. We were doing a drive-in sequence in that, and that was kind of cool. The whole production for this last setup was in the middle of Pennsylvania in an abandoned intersection. So it's like this thing kind of goes through, again, a little tunnel, and I guess it was not a train track. I think the train went over it, and the cars go through it. And then back in whenever, the 40s or 50s, they were like, this is inefficient. This isn't going to work for the highways. So they just abandoned it.
Wow.
And like 10 miles to the right, like literally like 10 miles is now where all the major highways go through Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't like take it down. They just kept it there. So it's like, it's probably like 5 miles one way and maybe 8 miles the other, and then just field.
Wow.
And then a tunnel. And so this was great. I mean, and so I don't know if Chris Evans was producing it. He's definitely the main actor, and they had a big budget. And I think the cinematographer from maybe Lord of the Rings or something was down there, and they wanted complete control. They didn't want any interference or any bogey. So it was this makeshift set in the middle of Pennsylvania. We were doing all sorts of driving and car stuff. We did some car crashes there, and it was winter. It was icy, so that was getting a little hairy, but that was fun. And then the last couple stuff was a couple TV shows, FBI, and what's the other show? Blacklist, actually.
Blacklist, yeah.
So, but then everything got shut down. So it's okay. I was able to make some more shorts.
Yeah, how was that when you were on Blacklist? I saw that you saw the picture. You were in the water there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was interesting. Do you guys watch Blacklist? You guys big fans?
I do, yeah. One of our buddies from the film festival, he's one of the main actors in the show.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's awesome.
And then he had a short film. Every couple of years he has a short film that he puts in. So
I'll have to keep an eye out for it.
Pretty cool. And then I actually did Blacklist season 1. I did like 1 day on it. And the cop, and I got to run into a house, and the first cop he was the stunt guy, so he bashed the door in, and I followed, and
nice.
It was so much fun. That was a long time. I mean, that was season 1, like a couple episodes in, and I didn't know what it was. I was like, this show looks cool.
Right. You didn't know it take off. I mean, what a show! I think it's in 100 countries or something now, or something.
James Spader's so good. It's a fun show. I fell behind. I got to catch up, but
this thing I was working on, I think it was season 4. Episode 12 or 13, and I'd worked, I think, 4 or 5 episodes over the years, mostly stunt stuff, some fights, some shootouts, and then this one was doubling a guy, and he's in a wheelchair, and they push him into the water, and I would kind of say this gets to be a little more serious than most stunts, a little more than just your average fights and falls, because you got to be strapped into the wheelchair,
yes,
and you're pushed in, but thankfully the guy. The stunt coordinator for that guy's name is Court Hessler, and he's won, Emmys for stunt coordination. I mean, so he's like top, some guys you don't know, how are they going to do it? Are they going to cut corners? This guy made sure everything was very safe. He had dive people in the water. He had quick releases on the stuff, but they did, when I got pushed in, they had weights on it. They wanted the chair to go down, and the pool was, part of it was 4 or 5 feet, but the other part was deeper. And they were like, try and hold as long as you can, because the main girl is going to dive in, and she's going to come with she's going to come and try to get you out.
Wow.
But in the event that she can't, because she can't open her eyes, most likely she's not going to be able to. Just go until you really have to, and you can either just make a signal and they'll come and put the hookah in, or make a signal and they'll come and strap you out. Give yourself like 10 seconds, and so yeah, a couple of times it was 45 seconds to a minute hold, just being underwater, and but sure enough, yeah, if something happened or she couldn't get me out for certain takes, they were just off camera, the scuba divers, and they came in. But still, it's a little hairy.
Did you ever do the Kevin Bacon show, The Following, at all? Anything on that?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the best runs I've had.
Oh yeah, I saw. I was there I did a few episodes actually as a cop, and one we set a woman on fire, and I was right there. So I saw all that, and that was nuts.
It's so funny you bring up The Following, because there were so many shows. So who's the guy, Sean Ashmore?
Yeah.
So I was his stunt double for the whole run of the show.
Yeah, 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, for 3 seasons. So I mean, I did, I don't know, 15 or 16 episodes, and then some episodes, you got to know the producers and everything. They knew I was an actor too, so I have lines in a couple episodes as well. And
they were very nice to me anyway. I was just an extra cop for about I did about 4 episodes throughout the 3 seasons, but I loved it. They were great.
Oh my gosh, it was like, that was one of the few times, because sometimes as an actor, you're on for 1 episode, and you have a great time, you meet everyone, and you may not see these guys for 5 years. And so with this was one of the first times where I knew where I was showing up. You kind of had the dresser, you had your place at Steiner Studios, and everyone kind of became a big family. You knew the same hair and makeup people, and it was a great run. And if I had known, I have this picture, I could probably dig it up. It was probably in the top 5 most dangerous, but definitely one of the most scariest things I've done personally. I think it was the 3rd season. It was a roof hang. But what makes it so unique was, it wasn't like, there's been times when you have to just hang off a roof or whatever, and you have a harness and you can kind of hold on. So mentally, it's not that scary, because if something were to go wrong, you could just kind of hold, and you could hold yourself up, and I'm sure someone will come and get you. But with this is, they're on the roof and someone's running after someone, and someone's trying to swing at someone, and they wanted the character to dive off the roof, and there's like a handrail. So like if this is the roof, there's a handrail. And so they want you to dive next to the handrail and kind of fall down and just grab where the handrail meets the roof. And so you can't, it'd rip your arm off. Yeah, you can't do it. And so it was really up to the riggers, who I wrote very nice thank you notes to all of them, and gave them all, bought them all dinner. I mean, it was incredible, because when they had me picked in a harness, and they did have a backup, and they had the lines running off the other side onto just these enormous weights, but they have it set at a pick point so that I can run and dive off, and then it'll hit. When it hits the pick point, I'll stop. But I have to actually kind of free fall and trust that this thing, and this is in the Brooklyn College, downtown Brooklyn's got to be 85 feet high, 90 feet high. Jeez. And, and I go, oh my gosh, that was one of those days where I was like, man, I signed up for this. This is what I wanted. Oh gosh. And it was scary, because we did the rehearsals, I think before Thanksgiving, and we set everything and got the cameras where we needed them. And then it was like a week before we filmed it. And I just didn't sleep for a week. I was just would wake up in sweats. Oh gosh, I just want to be on that roof. I want to hear action, and I want to hear cut. Okay, good. And then go get a beer. That was one of those things. And I'll send you the pictures. It's a hairy picture, because it's just hanging, and it's completely relying on a wire that goes down onto the thing. So yeah, The Following. That was a big one. Yeah.
You were doing all this stuff. You're traveling, and you wrote a book. So we want to tell everyone about the book and how we can get the book.
Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Yeah, the name of the book is called My Take on All 50 States. It's a triple entendre, my take, but my take on, and then kind of my take on all 50 states. And how it started was, like I kind of touched on earlier, I moved to New York City probably 14 or 15 years ago, lived in LA for a couple of years. I just assumed I would be, in a soundstage or in a studio in Brooklyn or something working. I didn't think I'd be traveling. And it happened pretty quick that, I'd booked something, I'd audition in New York, and next thing you know, I'm on a plane. And it wasn't even just like set. Sometimes it was, I was in a freezing river in Utah, hours away from civilization.
This goes back, you said 15 years, but now they're filming all over the place now, so it must even be crazier.
Now it's getting a little more common, but what's happening that's interesting in the industry is, with these tax incentives, like I'd say, 10 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, there weren't pockets of locals. There weren't people in Atlanta. There weren't people in New Orleans. It was LA and New York, and then maybe a couple people in Florida, and when I say a couple, I mean like two people that have like a house, And then these tax incentives became so lucrative that there were more films being shot a month in Georgia, in Louisiana, in New Mexico than LA. So, it's a cutthroat industry. People hustle. There are people that uprooted their families from LA to go live there just to get the leg up. Hey, you don't got to fly me. You don't got to put me up in a hotel. I don't need per diem. I'll work. They want to get on the residuals. They want to they just want to get in on stuff.
And so many in Atlanta now, right? Atlanta is a big one.
And so now what happens is you still travel, but it's not quite as much because, and it's weird because you could have like a $50 million budget movie. What's it cost to fly someone down? A couple of grand in the grand scheme of things, but it's just, to a producer, it's so enticing. Oh, well, this guy's right here. And I think the other thing too is like what holding is, right? When they hold someone, like if you have a day of work on the second day of the month, but you're established, and now your character doesn't come back till like week 3 or week 4, SAG says you got to pay that guy to stay the whole time. To not turn down work and stay in his hotel, that could be a lot of money. And I guess with these locals, there's the thing, nope, it's just this day, then it's this day. And so it's worked enough where there's just, now I think there's probably more people in Atlanta than maybe New York sometimes, as far as, stunt people and actors, Louisiana. And so you're still traveling, but a lot of times I've had the call and say, oh, wait, we found the local. We found the local. I go, damn it. But that was it. There's some interesting stories too. Like, one guy I got to double that I never thought I would was, Justin Timberlake. He does some acting from time to time. He's turned out some pretty good movies. Yeah. He did this movie, Runner. And I really like that movie. It didn't do that well. It kind of flopped at the box office, unfortunately. The critics kind of tore it up. But I always tell people, I go, if you just want escapism, you want, it's like a McConaughey movie. Some of them are really fun and they're visual. It's all about grand yachts, locations. Ben Affleck's the bad guy. Can we ask for anything more?
So long ago. I remember that now. Yeah, but I never saw it. I got to watch that.
I'm telling you, it's about, the $1 billion industry of online sports gambling. And so all these things. So I was really happy to get the call for that because I flew down to Puerto Rico. I was in Puerto Rico for 2 weeks, and we were just driving sports cars but we were filming and I write about this in the book. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, here's like some big set. We were filming in like ghettos of Puerto Rico. We were filming in shanty towns that they had like gotten permission to film at, and it was like a drug dealer would be like the gatekeeper. And it was all worked out with like the locals that, hey, the police are going to back off of them for a couple weeks if they don't mess with production, because, a big film crew could, the trickle down economics of a film crew coming in, the hotels and the local businesses, it does a lot for the economy. Yeah. So there was like kind of like a handshake deal, but like I remember showing up to the shanty town and there's no doors on some of the houses and the roofs are falling off and children are just walking around without shoes, and dogs are barking.
Wow.
And we show up, and there's a there's just a gate, and some very tough looking guy, and he's let him in, and he was in charge. Like if he said no, we weren't getting in. Like there wasn't like a PA there going like, oh hey, you guys are here. It was like this like hardcore guy who was like, yeah, we talked to Rico, like, yep, and the crew would get in, and then he had to let us out too at the end of the day. So we were filmed, but this is like an hour away from the hotels. These are just in these jungles of Puerto Rico, in these random areas. I found that interesting because you've been on sets. The set itself is so exciting, but now you're like in these weird obscure areas, and that's kind of what it was about, and these different things. And then eventually after 14 15 years of doing it, I only had maybe 5 or 6 states to go. and so I was like, I think I was only probably like 34 at the time. I'm like, I don't want to wait till I retire to go to like Alaska or go to North Dakota. I said, I got to pull the trigger. And I always remember, work gets pushed for whatever reason. And I just drove. I think I just got in a cab and went to LaGuardia Airport, and I called my wife. She's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to Little Rock, Arkansas. She goes, what? I go, I got 5 states to go. I said, I'm going. And I booked a one-way ticket to Little Rock, Arkansas. And I just bummed around there for 4 or 5 days and harassed the locals and just took in the sights. And so there's some random adventures peppered in there too, so yeah, it was kind of neat.
Well, now they're probably filming in Arkansas now.
I know. I think they're filming in Montana. I heard they were filming in Wyoming because there was like no cases. Like the whole state had like 2 cases, and it was like asymptomatic or whatever. Yeah, so they're filming there, Little Rock. That'll probably be next, huh?
Yeah,
that'll be the next Atlanta, Montana, or South Dakota or something like that. Yeah,
it's crazy. And then in New Jersey, even they, of course, all this happened now, but they have a lot more incentives now.
Yeah, I would love to film more stuff. We just moved because I was in Jersey. Mm-hmm. I was in right next to MetLife Stadium.
Okay, yeah.
I was by East Rutherford, right out there. There's a nice new apartment it was called the Monarch. You should look it up. It was this luxury apartment that was filled with like high-end drug dealers, and they had like a prostitution bust there. It was because of all the football players who lived there. So it was this incredible place to live at. It was so interesting. So we had to get out of there, and for multiple reasons, but we actually just moved a little bit upstate, Rockland County.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, just to kind of get out of the thick of stuff, but you can still buzz into the city if you need to. So
yeah, cool, not too far, right?
Yeah, and I've heard some things are going to come up here too. I think they filmed some stuff here before, like Orange is the New Black, and The Following actually used to film up here a little bit. So so that'd be great if some stuff came up here, so you don't have to drive into Brooklyn.
We had some shows down here. The other day there was a show filming over by me. So
yeah,
they're starting to come down the shore a little bit.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I think Jersey and upstate New York are going to come back way before Manhattan or Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah. So I think they're just planning like, oh, we could film here, so might as well do it here.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But I know that they're filming The Blacklist now. So.
Oh, that just came back, right? Yeah.
It just came back.
I talked to one guy, and I heard, what happens is you gotta go in sometimes 2 weeks before, test, make sure you're negative. And then I don't know if Blacklist is doing this specifically, but some of the TV shows now, 2 weeks before, like if you had a couple lines, you have 1 day of filming, you got to be in a hotel for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, right next to it or where they're filming, and then they test you again before.
Wow. They're doing it in Atlanta. I know they're doing that in Atlanta.
Yeah. It's so I've heard a couple stories of these, these girls getting apart, and, they'll have a rehearsal, but the rehearsal isn't right before their shoot date. The rehearsal might be a week. So they're, for one day of work, a principal part, they're in a hotel for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And they're getting paid, but, some people, they miss their family. They want to go home to their dog, they want to go home to their, their significant other. And so, but I guess if that's what it takes to get things started,
Yeah. It's what about are you been writing any more short films or anything during this time?
Yeah, so I think the next one I'll submit to you guys, we I may have told you this before, it's called Small World. And we actually filmed that in East Rutherford, and we filmed it right before stuff went crazy. So we had a nice time to edit it, and we're actually just started submitting that to like some online festivals and that. But if you check it out, it's pretty cool. I'm definitely going to send it to your next festival. It's about these two strangers, and they meet, halfway across the world, and in a foreign country. They start talking, and they realize they're from the same small town.
Wow.
And then the endings is will make or break it for you. But it's a really cool. I got this Broadway actress to play the other parts. So she's really good, very natural. But we wanted the location to be super authentic, and we looked at. I think I didn't have an exact count, but we looked at over 75 bars before we found one.
Yeah.
Because we don't want it to look like our uncle's pub or our buddy's bar, and it's supposed to be like
or the bright side that we go to all the time.
Right. Hey, it looks like the bright side over there with a a Corona thing or a big Guinness. We didn't want that, and it was really hard because we looked at Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, Greenwood Lake. We looked up there, and then sure enough, I was out to eat, and I was in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and there was a tequila German restaurant. It was called like Tequila House, H-A-U-Z or S, like a German house. And they had an upstairs bar, and the lady was like, "Oh, I brought these things in from Thailand. This is from Central America. So you don't know what world you're in." And I just begged her. I was like, "Is there any way we could film here? Because you probably know from making stuff, sometimes you need like the generators and the insurance, and you just don't want to go that road." And I think because the place just opened up, it had only been open a couple of weeks. They were super cool. They were like, "Just buy a bunch of tequila and food for the crew, and come in." I said, "But we got to keep the sound off. Like, what happens downstairs? Would you please keep the music off?" And they're like, they didn't want to at first, but I was like, "We really can't without that for the dialogue." Yeah. They go, okay, we'll do it. And they opened up real early, and we filmed that. So that was the last thing that we completed, which is nice because that gave us we could really take our time editing, and it came out really good. This guy Tony Z did a great job editing it, and it's awesome. But then the thing we wrote is it's called A Boat Time, and we're still editing that now. We got a trailer out. That was the last thing we filmed, and it takes place entirely on a boat. So the entire short film takes place in open water.
Wow.
up in Greenwood Lake, and it was something I've wanted to do. I bought a boat impulsively, I think 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been trying to film something on that boat for 5 years, but it's either getting people to come up or, on the weekends when people are available, there's so much boat traffic. There's just, too many people there that it wouldn't work because it's supposed to be kind of like a lone fisherman and this kind of like crazy thing. Ship happens sometimes. That's the log line. Sometimes ship happens. We really wanted to look like he was just enjoying the perfect day, like early morning in the middle of nowhere. And because of this, there was no boats, and everyone was available. So we filmed on like a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and we pushed the date. We needed an extra date, and everyone was just available. So we in the midst of all this, we had this really very relaxing, challenging, but just like a very relaxing shoot date out on the open water for a couple of days. Yeah.
That's cool.
So
are you finished editing that, or are you editing that now? Or
yeah, we're probably we're doing the color correction and doing the post on it. We got a nice trailer out. It's almost ready to ride. So that's it came out good, but it was a lot of work because with the water and getting the continuity and all the stuff. We got drone. We had a drone operator doing some stuff just to show the space and to show the thing. And I don't think I would have ever gotten that normally, or they would have charged. Some of these drone operators, these guys make thousands of dollars.
Yeah, make a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah, they do car commercials. They're doing Hyundai commercials, on a Wednesday. And here they're doing my short film. I felt very, very thankful. And I think, some of the guys are like, "Man, I just want to get out of Manhattan. I'll do it for a boat ride." Basically, some of these guys were doing it for that. So it's looking good, though. It's definitely like you've seen a lot of shorts, I'm sure, in your day. Like I think just the location alone, it's going to stand out and get a little bit of attention just because it's. I don't think just anyone could kind of put this together. It was a lot of work, and I mean, kind of years of kind of poking at people and trying to get their interest, and then it was like, hey, now we got the opportunity. So I think it should do pretty good. Yeah, definitely fun.
You have a lot of comedy shorts that you've done, you've acted in, and you've done. I've seen a lot of short comedies. Is that kind of like where you like to go?
Oh yeah, I do. I try to. When I think of writing stuff, I'm not really setting out to write like a comedy. It's just kind of like I just have these ideas and they come to me, and then I'm just kind of thinking, oh, how do I end this? What would be fun? And I kind of pitch it back and forth to some guys, and it just ends up happening that some of them come out pretty good, like that We Have Your Wife or something. That did really well. That won a couple of comedy awards, and I think I like that. I think short film making, a lot of people, it's so dark. Some people, it's so serious. Yeah. And if it's done well, I think it's okay. And sometimes there are these stories to tell, but sometimes you go to these festivals and some of them, these serious they're very depressing. They're very like, man, I'm like, dude, wow. Like I just watched 15 minutes of you, like, I don't know, just being depressed.
My favorite brothers, the real short ones that make you laugh, even like just a nice.
Yeah. Right. And that's kind of, so I guess we kind of make stuff that we like to watch. And that's, because I like to attend a lot of film festivals, and that's what we like to see, short, sweet, something unexpected happens, something fun happens. And that's what we like. We've done a couple dramas, and we're actually, speaking about writing, we are writing something now. Once we finish About Time, one of them has to deal with tech addiction. And it's, these girls, they're dealing with the pros and cons of dating apps. But I think that's going to be the second one, the one that I'm really going to try to go with, because if I can do comedy and action at the same time, that's like my favorite.
Oh yeah.
And so check this out. I got this guy. He's a professional skydiver, and he kind of came up to me, after test drive, and he was like, "Hey, I got, I'm a pro skydiver," and I've actually bumped into him on a couple sets in New York, and he's a big stunt guy, Bob Harvey, and he wants to start a short film with, a skydiving sequence.
Wow, that'd be great.
So that would be pretty neat. And so there's a guy I know up on Greenwood Lake, this guy Akos, who he's a stunt guy himself, but he's a skydiver, but he's a photographer. Like he has all the helmets and he's got the setups. He can do red up there. He can do not just GoPros. He's actually filmed stuff for commercials. So he said he's in. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to make a very epic action sequence, that goes from the air to a car. He thinks he can get a process trailer from some friends, maybe a Blue Bloods or a TV show he knows, at a process trailer, so that he can actually come skydiving. And then once he gets 20 foot from the thing, he's going to go land in the field, and then we're going to cut. I don't want to give away everything, but he's a process trailer for 20 feet.
Into the car.
And he's going to jump into it, and so we're going to cut it. It's going to look almost like Austin Powers, if you ever saw it.
I was just thinking.
Tom Cruise is Austin Pussy or whatever that is. We're going to kind of borrow that cut and have him get in the car with his buddy driving, and they're going to go do something. And, it's going to look like this epic James Bond thing, but I promise we're going to have some type of a surprise ending. We've got a couple of ideas in the works, and we're going to go onto a boat too. We want to go from the sky to the car, the sports car, and then we want to get on a boat and then we've got this kind of surprise ending, I think, so that'll you're gonna think it's a drama, but then we'll pull the rug out from under you, hopefully.
That'd be a lot of fun. I love those kind of films. They're a lot of action pack and funny. It could be drama, could be comedy. You never know. And then
you don't know what it is. And I think, because I like to, with these shorts, and nowadays, there's so many students that are making films. I mean, some of these student filmmakers are making, when I started out, I would act in student films just to stay fresh. Some of these guys, they're taking out loans. They're renting prisons, these students. These guys are ambitious. So something that always, piques my interest, if it's something that I don't think the average guy can do, or that the average person isn't willing to do, just like a casual, I can't, it's gonna be hard to film that skydiving sequence. So I'm like, if we can get that done, I think it already should stand out a little bit, and it'd be worth the effort, because to submit all that, so it takes a lot of work and stuff. And I think it should do well. It'd definitely be a fun piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna see it and they're gonna go, oh, he's not gonna go out. Oh my gosh, you went out the plane. Holy crap. How'd they do that?
So where can we find your book and get your book? Again, is that on your website? I think Ming posted a few of your sites there. So down below there on the live feed. So there
nice. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's it. It's so the first place on my website, jimford.com, there is a tab for the book, and you can buy it there. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Yeah. You can get it Books A Million, and I think even Walmart's got it.
Oh, wow.
Walmart, Target, and a couple of those places. And it took a while because I didn't self-publish it. I got it published, which was the big thing. And I guess I don't know if I was naive or whatever. I thought, I got these cool stories. I'm just going to get my book published. You're welcome. It was a lot of work.
Wow.
to get it published. It was, I mean, probably 5 years of, maybe 3 of writing it. But then I started looking for publishers. And then it was a couple of years of just like, hard submitting, and they take months to get back to you, and they say, no, this isn't for us, or no. And like almost like submitting short films, there's a little bit of rejection that goes along with it, and hopefully you get more success. But yeah, eventually I found these guys, and they thought it was cool. And some of them actually were trying to see all 50 states themselves. So that was kind of the through line. I think that pushed it over. And then it was still, they did some editing, and they still did a lot of work to clean it up and kind of thin it out, which actually that tying it all in, Small World, the short film about the strangers that meet in a faraway country and they end up being from the small town, was based very much on a true story. Not of me just going to Florida or California. I was in another country with a friend, and we bumped into a girl I can't even explain to you how non-touristy this place was. This was like in between Granada and Pamplona or Malaga, outside of some hotel in a dive bar in an alleyway. This was not outside the Barcelona gift shop. This was like nights of traveling and trains and planes and
wow
stuff. And we bump into these girls, and just to say hi, like, hey, how's the sangria? Oh, you don't have an accent? And it up. It's just one. Where are you from? Up north. This. And they were from his hometown. They were one street away.
No way.
And we were like, what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
They were stopping through, and this is not how we end the short, but a lot of people said this wouldn't be a bad way to end it. I mean, it was so serendipitous. It was almost like they were meant to be, that they were going to fall in love and have kids and have this beautiful thing. And then it kind of just was like, well, we didn't travel all this way to hang out with some people from Central Mass. See ya. And we both just kind of like, okay, it was so incredible how it unraveled. And just, it started out here, and it just got closer, and they were one street away. But he went to private school, she went to public school.
Oh, wow.
And they were a couple years, he was like 2 years older, she was a couple years younger, and they never bumped cross. They never crossed paths. And can you imagine you're going to go that far away to meet someone?
That's crazy.
It's crazy. You would think like, hey, let me get your number, or at least like we gotta make out, Yeah. But like it was like, the town is Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. No one's ever heard of it. It was like, okay, well, nice to meet you. And then we're like, really? That's it? You don't want to see if I go? We didn't travel all this way to hang out with people from Shrewsbury. Like we can see them when we're back home. We want to go talk to the Spanish chicks. And I think they kind of felt the same way too. Like, you guys are nice, but we want like a handsome Spanish guy. And it's odd. We never got their number. It was just very weird that it ended that quickly. Like, and some people like, that wouldn't have been a bad. We do a little different. We do a little something different in the short. But to tie it into the book, I had that story in the book. And the publishers were like, Jim, this story is great, but it's my take on all 50 states, not my take on random countries and other stuff too. And I'm like, but this story, like, how can I not? And he was like, and then I was like, oh, I'm always looking for new stuff. So it was really quick to kind of turn that into, a short script and everything. And there are still some little quick stories in the book from other countries. But what we do is we say, like, hey, quick detour, or, like, don't worry, I'm going to compare and contrast. And I do go to Italy at one point in the book, but I only go there to compare the differences, of Americans. Like, if you've ever been to Italy, the greatest thing is you show up at a restaurant, they don't have a menu. they don't care if you're allergic to food.
Oh.
They're just like, hey, we're going to start with this. We're going to bring you a split piece soup. And then we're going to bring you some oxtail, and we're going to finish with a little thing of risotto, and we'll get some dessert going. And you're like, we're gonna, like, what if I don't like it? They're like, take a hike. This restaurant isn't for you. There's no divas. There's no nothing. There's no like, hold the mayo. Can I get an extra tomato? No, it's how mom is making it.
That's
and
crazy.
So I only keep that in there, and the publishers left it in there too, because it shows we're choice whores in America. You go out to eat, you go, what? They bring you a thing of condiments. It's like 50 condiments. You know, you got 9,000 options. And so, I talk a little bit about that. And I love Italy too. You know, if you ever been, or if you ever go, sometimes you'll go to a restaurant and they won't even ask you if you want wine. They'll just say red or white.
Red or white.
But what if I'm not drinking wine? They're like, everyone drinks wine at lunch. You know, I can't do that in the States, but for some reason I have to take a nap. But for some reason in Italy, they give you it's like a half glass, and you have it with lunch, and it kind of perks you up, but everyone does it. So that was kind of cool. So there are some cool stories from the U.S. And abroad, but
would you do another book? Would you do another book about or just the abroad stories?
Wow, that's tough, because after this, 5-year, maybe close to 6-year journey is over, it has been so much. I almost said I will never do it again, but the writing was fun. The writing of the book was so artistically satisfying and just a blast. But it was the editing and the getting it published that was so crazy. I may take my time and just have random stories from abroad, and just maybe not make it all about one thing, just kind of like, call it story time or long story short or something like that, where it's just a collection of all the trouble I got in as a kid, running on baseball fields or doing crazy stuff like that. And then maybe just self-publish it. As of now, I think that's about the only thing I could handle, unless, I get a second wind in 5 or 6 years and I'm like, no, I can do one more. But yeah, it was a lot of work. Yeah.
Well, we went by the hour so quickly. It flew by.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It goes crazy, right? It goes so fast sometimes. Do you want anything else you want to promote or anything before we go?
No, that was great. The book, My Take on All 50 States, that's the big one. And then you can check out, that short film, A Boat Time will be out, probably next year. But Small World, the story we're talking about, that one, even though it's playing at festivals, that is already online. So you guys can watch that right now, either on the website or on YouTube or Vimeo. And it's a fun one. It's got a good look to it. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. And
then they can look up your IMDb to see like where you played all the stunts and everything.
Oh yeah. And that's probably only, half the credits too. Cause I don't know, sometimes they don't all get up there, but there's a lot of stunt credits too. I think almost combined acting and stunts is close to 200.
Because they never really put all the stunts up in the past, right? Now
they don't always. Yeah, sometimes it's uncredited, or sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you get them, and sometimes on the big action movies, I don't know. Some guys probably just like, the first 20, because sometimes in those movies is like. That's
right. Yeah, you don't usually see it too often. That's right. I didn't even think about that.
50 or 60, but if people are watching The Irishman, the scene, it's when Jimmy Hoffa, Al Pacino, it's when the guy comes up from the courtroom and he goes to shoot him. If you've seen the movie, it's not a real gun, it's a pellet gun. And they go to shoot him with that just to send a message. One of the clerks, the court clerks, they had a couple actors and then a couple stunt guys that rush in and they got to break up. It's a big sloppy fight. It's a melee. It was, rehearsed, but rehearsed to look kind of crazy and messy. And I pull Al away and we throw some punches. That was the scene I was in, if you guys were watching that. So.
And that was that scene, and that got nominated.
Yeah. You know what it was that got nominated. This is kind of interesting. Is there were huge movies like Avengers. There were big superhero movies and these Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Screw them. But they have the big exciting sequences. With The Irishman, it's not like there was any one sequence that was so gnarly. But it's just, I think, and rightly so, the movie was 3 hours. If you count the amount of stunts that were in it, yes, there was driving, there was shoots, there was murder, there were fights. Some movies, they may just have one big fight at the end or one little car chase. There was like countless. There's probably, if you break it down, there may be more fights and stunts in this movie than probably 99% of movies, unless there was some really ambitious, like Jason Statham action movie where they were trying to do something constant. There was so much in it that it was going up against Avengers and Joker and all these big things just because of how many stunts were peppered throughout the movie. And that's what gave it the nomination for, best stunt ensemble in there. Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for coming on. It was great talking to you. It was a lot of fun, and we'll do it again sometime. And
thanks so much for having me, Chris. Yeah, and I'm sure hopefully I'll see you at the
next
festival sooner than later. Yeah, maybe the end of this year or next year. Yeah,
we're hoping we're gonna try. Like I know in New Jersey, if we get that 50%, we're gonna try to do some kind of weird scheduling that we can have it sort of.
Yeah, I think 50% would be good. That'd be a good start. Yeah,
like just do like 40-minute sets so that's not as crowded. And
I just talking to someone at a festival in Florida, and they said I think they're going to try for February or something. Just to it should be back by then. I think I think maybe the end of this year some of them will.
I'm going to one. The first one I'm going to one. It's outside in Pennsylvania, in Reading, Pennsylvania, and there's a film I'm only in it for like a minute, but I'm going because they're going to screen it on the score on the at a baseball field. So on the big Jumbotron.
Oh, nice. Oh, that'd be great. So it's outdoors.
Outdoors. So they have a lot of room to sit outdoors. I'll probably it'll probably be cold at night, and so but it'll be kind of fun. I've never Jumbotron, see my big head on the screen.
Oh, the beautiful face. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's good. They're getting creative. I heard some places in Texas were doing that, like drive-throughs. They were bringing the drive-throughs back and doing stuff. That's cool. They're doing it at a field. I like when people are doing it. We're outdoor animals. We can't stay inside. For too long. At some point, we gotta say, all right, enough's enough. Let's get out there. Yeah.
So we'll see. But so thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll have this on. It's on Facebook. We're gonna. It's gonna take me a while because I'm so backed up. But
okay, yeah.
I'll have a link to it on YouTube when I get a chance to do that, and we'll also be on SoundCloud.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and I'll send it out. I'm sure a lot of people like to see it. Yeah.
Cool.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, a lot of fun, man.
All right. And